Piper is the most interesting 4-star character to play as at the launch of ZZZ. She's our only free-to-play friendly anomaly character, and she's definitely a character that everyone is sleeping on. So let me explain how to play Piper to 3 different skill levels of players: casuals, gamers, and tryhards. Also, let me explain how, if you subscribe to this channel and you subscribe to my story channel, you get a DPS bump of at least 5%. It's important, you know, for like when you go to your bars and hit the guy who stepped on your shoes. Right, John? Look, John, you have anger problems. Look what you're doing to your daughter. Hey casual, you might be somebody who just got Piper randomly and wants to see what she's about, or you've heard she's pretty good and want to see why. So let's do a summary of what she does and how to quickly build her to make her operational. Firstly, you only need to keep one phrase in mind when you're playing Piper. Spin to win is the name of the game with Piper, as holding her skill causes her to spin a lot. And holding her skill when her energy allows for an EX allows for a lot more spinning. This spinning allows Piper to quickly do the thing that she was made for, and that's to proc the anomaly effect known as Assault. In essence, Assault does big damage number, and you like big damage numbers in a game centered on damage, so you want Assault. It also increases the rate at which the daze bar increases, allowing for achieving the high damage multiplier for stun faster, leading to bigger numbers. So every time you get this circle here filled up with orange, you get big damage and more stun. But that's not all. You also get these stacks, and when they reach 20, she grants the entire team an additional 18% damage buff. It's neat stuff. So as for which skills to level up, her basics are kind of just there, and the same is true for her ultimate, meaning you should really just focus on leveling her skill, but her damage, once again, comes from Assault, which means that her level really matters, more so than most DPS. So just focus on leveling Piper up, and you can literally just leave the rest alone. So because of this, you'll want to equip her with W engines that increase attack, AP, or both. So these work. Literally, if you have any of these, just throw them on her. I'll explain more about these in the next section, but I'm not gonna bog you down with them because I know you don't care. If you still don't have a 4-star W engine, just equip her with these for the time being. As for discs, give her a 4-piece Fang Metal, a 4-piece Freedom, or even a 4-piece Hormone Punk could work, with a 2-piece of any of these. Here are the substats that are important for her. As for teams, honestly, you could run her technically with anybody. Anomaly is interesting in that it can be a main DPS of a team or a sub DPS. There are characters that have aspects of their kit also centered around Assault, like Piper does, mainly Nekomata. If she was the S that you pulled from the standard banner, that would definitely not be a bad choice. As for other teammates, Grace is incredible for reasons that we'll get into later, and Lucy is also not a bad choice either. She raises the attack for everyone in the party, which matters for Assault, and she's currently the only character with the same faction as Piper. Piper's additional ability states that when another character shares her attribute, which is physical, or her faction, which is this biker gang, she grants everyone an additional 18% damage. Again, why Nekomata and Lucy work so well. Nekomata being physical and Lucy being the gang. So that's how she works in essence. That's how to build her and who she works with. So have fun, you filthy fucking casual, or stick around if you're a real gamer. For the gamers out there, you really want to know how Piper works better. You enjoy her playstyle enough to want to understand her combos and intricacies and why certain stats are better than others. Little tricks for characters to optimize their damage matters to you. So let's go over some. I said that her strat was spin to win, but that's only mostly true. Piper can just hold her skill to spin until EX, or she can combo into the EX spin, so you don't have to bother with the build-up phase that you otherwise would have to slumber through. If you hit Piper's first 2 basics, then hold her skill, she'll go into her EX skill much faster. And the same is true for if you do it after her 4th hit as well, when she swings her hammer back like this. This is great because the EX skill is much much better for the anomaly buildup that it provides, and it does more damage. Just keep in mind though, Piper's energy needs. Normally without any energy regen pieces or buffs, it takes Piper 3 basic attack strings to reach an EX spin. So you can just jump right into a spin after her 2 basics, or you can decide to go through more of her normal attack string to build up her energy. That's just up to you. Piper also has a pretty wide radius to her spins as well, which adds extra value to her if and when we get characters that have high grouping capacity. Currently we have a Bang Boo and Nicole who can group, but their ability to do so isn't super insane or anything. So keep in mind that her value gets higher with groupers, but also her value is just insane with other anomaly units. I said earlier to those filthy casuals that Piper works well with other physical DPS units like Nekomata, and that is true. But what's more true is her ability to be fucking cracked with disorder teams. I spoke about disorder in this video, but quick and simple is that disorder occurs when one anomaly happens within the 10-second period of another anomaly. Every anomaly has an effect that lasts for 10 seconds. In the case of physical, it's the effect called flinch, which is the one that increases the days bar faster. I said in my disorder video that the damage that disorder does is based on the first anomaly that was procced, and that is true, but the specifics of that statement really matter. The damage that's done with disorder is based on the potential damage that an effect could have had for the time remaining as well, which means that anomalies that have dots attached to them deal way more damage as a disorder than the other options do. So that means that fire, electric, and ether anomalies always want to be popped first if you're running a disorder team, which also works since the other 2 elements, physical and ice, deal more damage with their normal anomalies than the other 3 do. Here's a demonstration of the damage that is done if I pop assault before burn, so I get an assault disorder. And here's the damage that's done if burn happens first, so I can proc a burn disorder. It's significantly more. So playing Piper in teams where you want to do disorder means you should run her with fire, ether, or electric characters, preferably 2 of them so that they can build up the anomaly bar quickly, since Piper can basically solo build up her own anomaly bar. So characters like Lucy already worked well with Piper, but adding another fire character like Soldier 11, who does tons of burn damage, does also work. But by far Piper's best teammate, and one of the best teams in the game, is Piper with Grace. Grace is the other anomaly unit that was released in 1.0, and she does massive amounts of electric anomaly buildup. This means you can play Grace, build up her electric, pop it, then swap to Piper, pop assault, and see massive disorder numbers. Since both characters scale off of attack, Lucy is yet again a perfect addition to that team, and she makes sure to give that 18% damage buff from Piper's ability as well. So what does this all mean for substats? I gave a guide earlier for what could be used, but if AP is used to increase disorder damage, and the same is true for attack percent, then why is she built like this? So here's what stats go in each disc slot. 1 through 3 don't matter in terms of the choice, other than their substats. 4 through 6, though, is where that choice really matters. And which is typically better? Well, physical damage bonus applies to everything in Piper's kit. She's loaded with it in her skills, and her assault damage is also affected by it, as damage percent multipliers affect anomalies too. But what doesn't affect anomalies, and I'm sure that you've noticed that this is missing in the kit, is the crit stat. Do not run crit on Piper. It's fine as a last-ditch substat, and it's still good for her, but since her damage is going to come from assaults and disorders, neither of those can crit, so there's no reason to run crit on her, especially as a main stat. This means that your choice for damage for slot 4 is between attack and anomaly proficiency, but you're going to have a lot of attack on you, even if your W engine has AP. Regardless though, it's just easier to get attack than it is to get AP, and while it's not diminishing returns, it's probably easier to think of it that way. Regardless, absolutely choose attack percent if it has better substats, such as extra AP. And the other is true too. Choose the one that has the best substats compared to the other. The W engines are where things are going to get interesting. On enemies where Piper can one-cycle them, her signature is great, but not her best in slot. The additional anomaly buildup doesn't do anything in an instance where she can just one cycle anomaly build up to an assault. So I'd suggest her other engines if you're having to deal with just mobs of enemies and you want to kill them really quickly. But where her engine clearly shines is obviously in in-game content, when enemies become harder to build up their anomalies. The same is true for the Weeping Gemini W engine. I don't even have it on here because I don't think it's really worth putting on unless you're running a difficult fight. You'll have to proc an anomaly 4 times before a stun duration is up to see its effects even really take place, meaning you'll want to proc them 4 times before the stun period even starts. For a large, huge majority of this game, that won't be the case, since the other W engines all proc everything within 1 spin instead of having to proc anything else. It's way more worthwhile to just run the other W engines until you're in late game. Now, it's actually really good if you're already at the point where you can proc multiple anomalies before a stun period happens, but if you are at that point, you're likely kind of a filthy whale, in which case I'd argue a max version of her signature would be better because of the massive 40% anomaly buildup that it provides, meaning she would pop off assaults much faster. Finally, with regards to the discs, the physical comment from earlier still applies, and since Piper is always proccing assault, she'll almost always have the 4-piece buff up. Just keep in mind though that Piper is in a weird spot when it comes to being a damage dealer with this set in in-game content though. Piper kinda really wants a physical support who can hold the Freedom Blues 4-piece set, since it reduces the enemy's anomaly buildup resistance to their element. But other than Shit Girl, there's really nobody else who can run that. So she's in a weird place as a main DPS in the endgame, especially without her signature W engine, as it means she's gonna be proccing assault a lot slower, which is not what you want with her. But running her as 4-piece Freedom Blues will naturally lower her damage by quite a bit because of it. So her damage in non-Nekomata or Grace teams is diminished because of all of this, so just keep that in mind. So if you're deciding to play Piper, you can go all out with assault damage, running her with someone like Nekomata, or focusing on boosting her damage with other characters and running her as a main DPS. But you can also run her as a disorder proccing badass by running her with other characters that proc dot granting anomalies: fire, electric, and ether. So you've made it this far, meaning you want to know everything about Piper. You're a damn tryhard, someone who doesn't just want to spin to win, but who lives to spin. A holy spinster. Wait. What the fuck? Let's talk about edging. Earlier, I spoke about how you could combo into Piper's EX spin, and that your choice was really about how much energy you want to gain based on either doing the 2 or 4-hit combo. But what if I told you that there was yet another trick to this combo, known as anomaly edging? So once you're in your EX spin, if you swap out of Piper while she's still spinning, she'll continue to spin and then do her slam. But what's unique about this is that she'll still build up anomaly while not being able to trigger the anomaly's effect. In ZZZ, if you quick swap out of a character, they'll sometimes still attack with their attack, depending on its animation. This attack will still obviously do its damage, and it will still build anomaly, but quick swap attacks will never break the anomaly bar, meaning you can get an anomaly bar to technically 99.9% completion and it won't trigger. This leads to a lot of really fun implications, mainly for disorder teams. One trick is to use Piper to edge her physical anomaly. Swap out, pop one of the dot anomalies, then quickly return to Piper to pop her physical anomaly, resulting in a devastatingly strong disorder. Now, what's the point of doing this? Well, besides being able to get off some more assaults during an enemy stun period, this is also absolutely essential for larger disorder damage. See, disorder damage is more complicated than the gamers need to know about, because this is actually its calculation. All this really means though is that with more time, dot disorders deal more damage. This is why they do more disorder damage than ice and physical, because disorders deal all of the dot damage in one big papa, and they do so multiplicatively. Having more dots stored up means more damage because of this. So letting these dots proc while you're dealing other damage means missing out on that multiplicative damage that they would have done if they were in that disorder bubble when it popped. All disorders last for 10 seconds, meaning every second counts. They're so precious that 1 second of difference is more than a 7% difference in damage that the disorder could have done. So if you're having to swap Piper in, combo into a spin, and then wait to proc assault while she's spinning, that's a lot of potential damage that you're losing out on from Disorder. This is why I don't even mention Disorders to the casual players, because it really is a much more intensive playstyle that requires being a lot more proactive about setting up pops and quick swaps. Pops and quick swaps. This also may require some chain canceling too, if you're not careful. If you get Piper up to 99.9% anomaly buildup from a quick swap, that means that using her in a chain attack will pop her assault. Now, this isn't an issue if you just popped your other anomaly right before doing the chain, or if during the chain you'll also pop the other anomaly first, but if you haven't done these things, you're going to be missing out on a ton of damage by using Piper's chain attack, meaning waiting on your last character, letting the chain die, and finishing the dot proc is a smarter move if it's really close to being procced, rather than wasting the assault and having to rebuild it up again during the stun timer. Now, does this consideration also apply to the buffs that the W engines grant as well? A lot of Piper's W engines have conditionals, and most of these conditionals require hitting the enemy with her EX spin for a specific amount of time. Take her signature. Every 0.3 seconds, she gains one of 3 buffs, with 2 of these buffs being damage buffs. Her EX skill lasts for over 3 seconds, meaning it's incredibly likely you'll receive all of these buffs with a full EX spin. But these buffs only last for 5 seconds, which is frankly not enough time to be able to swap off of her after a buildup to build up a different anomaly bar altogether. So should you not edge her bar, then swap back to her to proc the Disorder later? Well, no. Even with the buffs, that simply wouldn't be worth it. Let's say you proc off one of the dot anomalies, and then you swap to Piper so that you can use her EX move to build up her buffs before you get Disorder, and then you proc Disorder when she does have those buffs. That's at least 3 to 5 seconds of lost Disorder time, which means a loss of around 3.5 or more % damage. Even without the buffs from her W engines, it's always smarter to edge and then pop immediately because of the pressing time that's always attached to Disorders. However, with really strict timing, you can edge the other anomaly first, like burn or whatever, then switch to Piper. Edge hers, getting the buff from the spin while you're doing it. Then quick swap to the other element, proc theirs quickly, then immediately swap back to Piper while she still has the buffs, and proc the Disorder. It's really strict timing because of her signature having the buffs only last for 5 seconds, but it technically is worth it to optimize this. The other W engines can be similar, like Rainforest giving an attack buff for energy that's been expended, and it lasts for 10 seconds. So you have double the time from her signature, and Fusion Compiler gives you 8 seconds. So edging significantly increases the Disorder damage, but it also requires you to be much more cognizant of your rotations and timings. Woo! So that's a lot about Piper. Hopefully, if you stuck around to this point, you understand how to play her and what she's good in and why she matters. To me, she's so important for indicating where this game will go in the future, and I really think everyone, if they have her, should try her out. Regardless, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to subscribe to this channel as well as my story channel. Class is dismissed!